Hello everyone, hope you're all doing great and welcome to another course from devtechie.com. And in this course, we are going to be mastering SwiftData in SwiftUI and iOS 17. This is going to be your comprehensive guide to unlock the full potential of SwiftData while building a robust and efficient iOS application. Now in this course, we'll embark upon a journey to build a complete app from start to finish, covering every aspect of SwiftData. Let's go ahead and first check out what we are going to build, and then we're going to go over the things that we're going to cover in SwiftData at high level. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out the app. So this is going to be an app called Reading Logs, which basically lists out all the readings that you've been doing so you can actually keep a track of them. Okay, so you can basically list out all the books that you actually have read. You can search the books. For example, you can search Harry Potter, and these are all the Harry Potter books. And you can also take a look at the details, basically when the book was published, which category it belongs to, add any notes that you might have. For example, I have a note, some note. I'm just gonna type this. Okay, so you can add notes, and notes actually belong to that book itself. So as you can see, this some note is added, but it's not going to appear on any other book. So they're related directly to a book. Okay, you can sort these. You can sort, for example, by published years, and as you can see, The Hobbit was published way before, so it comes at the top. Or you can sort by title. You can delete items, and you can add back the items. So let's go ahead and add Hobbit back. You can choose images, so you learn how to store images basically in SwiftData. This book was published in 1938. This is a fiction book, and you can actually put multiple categories if you like, and go ahead and save, and your data is saved. Now if I go ahead and kill the app and bring it back, you're going to notice that all the records are saved just like the way they were. Okay, so basically this is the app, and other than the book and notes related categories, you can basically you can define genres. You can have basically genres for different books, and each genre can display what all books belong in them. You learn about content unavailable view, which is a new view in iOS 17. So there's going to be a lot of features that you're going to learn. Basically there are SwiftUI and SwiftUI related for iOS 17. Now with that quick walkthrough, let me actually quickly cover what you're going to basically learn from this. So you're going to create Swift data models. You're going to gain the expertise to craft Swift data models from scratch, understanding their structure and how they're represented to handle data efficiently. You're going to learn to manipulate data, learn ins and outs of Swift data operations, including adding, updating, deleting records, mastering the art of managing data seamlessly. You're going to learn efficient querying. You're going to explore how world of efficient querying works in SwiftData, enabling you to retrieve and process data in the most optimal fashion. Now you're going to learn about entity relationship. We're going to take a deep dive into understanding what entity relationships are and how they are handled in SwiftData, exploring the different types and implementations of them in your own app, creating a cohesive and interconnected data model. You're going to learn about filtering and sorting, acquiring the skills for filtering and sorting in SwiftData, allowing you to represent your data in the most meaningful and organized manner. You're going to learn about handling complex types, like delving into the intricacies of storing complex types, and how you can handle images in SwiftData, enhancing your app's capability. We're also going to build advanced filtering and sorting techniques where you're going to filter data dynamically, sort data dynamically, elevating your SwiftData's proficiency, mastering the advanced techniques for filtering and sorting. It gives you a tool that you can implement to build sophisticated data management apps. Okay, so whether you're a beginner looking to grasp the fundamentals or an experienced developer aiming to refine your skills, this course is designed to empower you with the knowledge and hands-on experience to become SwiftData master. All right, with that, let's build a powerful and efficient iOS app together in this course. So join me. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we're gonna get started with SwiftData. So what I have here is I've created a simple project, and this is a project that actually basically is created by Xcode straight out of the box. So there is nothing special that has been done here, not even for SwiftData. So when you're creating your new project, you'll actually see an option to select SwiftData, and we are not going to basically select that because I want to show you how you can add SwiftData support to your existing project other than just creating a new project. So for that reason, we're going to basically start from the blank slate and then we're going to go from there. Okay. And if you're watching this course, that means you have a bit of information about what SwiftData is, but let me give you my take and basically what is it all about, and also we're going to talk about how it fits into whole SwiftUI and iOS development. So Apple introduced SwiftData in WWDC 23. It is similar to the SwiftUI. SwiftData takes a declarative approach and it makes the data persistence as easy as letting us create a model and then managing data using declarative code, eliminating the need of using model schema design files, and bringing the whole querying and filtering of the data purely in Swift-based code. SwiftData is designed to work for both UIKit and SwiftUI, and it is seamlessly integrated especially for SwiftUI. SwiftData is basically built on the top of core data, but it brings a modern approach to the data persistence by providing native APIs written directly in Swift language. Now, SwiftData uses macros to generate code. Macros are another powerful feature introduced in WWDC 23, and they are used to generate fast, efficient, and safe code. SwiftData automatically builds a schema using our models and maps their fields efficiently to the underlying storage. Objects managed by SwiftData are fetched from the database when needed, and they're automatically saved at the right moment. So there's no additional work needed from your part. Now, in order to understand this better, we're going to work on it by building an app from scratch in SwiftUI and SwiftData. We'll be building a book reading log app. This app will keep a track of all the books that we have read. This app will also have notes section for each book so we can remember the important aspects of the book via saved notes. Okay? All right. So in the next video, we are going to start with a simple data model, and that data model is going to be for a book. All right. So I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to get started with our data model. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we are going to be creating our data model. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first create a new folder to keep our models together, and I'm going to just simply create a folder called models. We're going to add a new file, and this file is going to be called book, as it's going to be representing our book model. Now, SwiftData uses basically these classes to create the model. So you would always create class type instead of struct type. You will always create a class type for your data model. And since we are not going to be inheriting or extending these classes and create subclasses, we're going to just define these classes as final class. We're going to call this book. And we're going to basically have a title, author, and published year properties. Okay, we are also going to create initializer, and starting Xcode 15, you can actually get some help from Xcode 15 itself and create the initializer. So this is what we have initializer created, basically initializing all of our properties. Now, this is basically our data model. Now, in order to turn this model into a SwiftData model, all we have to do is first import SwiftData, and then just we need to decorate this class with @model macro, and this @model macro turns basically the entire class into a SwiftData backed data model. Now this @model macro, it basically converts the SwiftData class into stored model that is managed by SwiftData. So we don't need any additional files or tools to manage the data model or the persistent layer. In addition to that, SwiftData can automatically infer many relationships using the declaration type like @attribute unique to describe the constraints for our data model. More on that a little bit later in the course, but for now, this is our model. Now, in the case of core data, we have to initialize the persistent container to basically get the model context, but in case of SwiftData, we get all that for free as long as we create and pass the model container object. The model container is basically an object that is managed for an app's scheme and for model storage configuration. Now, in our case, we'll pass this container from the app struct. Okay, so go to your reading logs app or whatever your app's name is, .app file, and right below the content view, we're going to add a modifier called model container. And as you can see, it's basically not available because we don't have SwiftData imported. So import SwiftData first, then add the model container, and we can add model container. So let me show you the initializer. Now model container should be available, and we can actually add the model container passing a custom model container or passing a container for a persistent type. So we're going to choose the persistent type. Now we can supply multiple types in an array, and that's what we're going to do. Basically, we're going to simply start with book.self, but we're going to later on extend it to many more models that we're going to create throughout this course. Now let's add a view to add a new book to our reading log so we can actually start adding some data into the persistent layer using SwiftData. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to start basically creating our add new book view. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started by creating our view. And we're going to start first by creating a views folder, which is going to store all the views. Okay, and in this view, we're going to add a new file, and this is going to be a SwiftUI view template, basically SwiftUI view file, and we're going to name this add new book view. Okay, and just go ahead and simply create this. First thing we're going to do is we know that we're going to need SwiftData, so we're going to add the import statement for SwiftData to basically get that framework available. Okay, now let's add rest of the UI to basically add a new book into our reading list. Okay, so we're going to start by creating a few state properties that are going to basically represent our model data. So let's go ahead and start with that. We're going to create a state property, state private var for title, one for author, and the last one for our published year. Okay, now these three properties are basically going to be tied to the text field that we're going to basically let user enter these books that they have already read. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a navigation stack inside the body, and this navigation stack is going to hold a v-stack. And v-stack, let's define the alignment property for this, and alignment is going to be leading, and then we're going to have a text view. This text view is basically just a label to read what this text is or what the field is all about. So that is going to be first, and then we're going to have our text field next to that or underneath, basically asking user to enter title for the book, and we're going to bind this to the title state variable. Okay, so we have our book title entry available, and we're going to basically text style this text field style as rounded border. Okay, let's go ahead and add some padding around the v stack. And we'll also give this a navigation title, add new book. Okay, now let's go back into our v-stack and basically add rest of the fields. So next one is the author, and this one is gonna be bound to the book author, and once again we're gonna use the rounded border text field, and then the last field that we need is published year. And in this case, we're going to use the other overload for text field, but that takes a value. Since this field is of integer type, we can simply say it's going to be tied, or it's going to be bound to the published year, and the format that we are looking at, is the number format. So this text field is number format type text field. Okay, and then we're gonna basically apply the text field style as the rounded border. Now there's one more thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna set the keyboard type for this guy. So keyboard type is gonna be a number pad. Okay, so you can basically enter numbers only. All right, so when they focus on this, the keypad that opens up, it's gonna be number pad only. Okay, next we're going to basically create an H stack, which is going to have our save and cancel buttons. Let's style this button with the bordered style, and then we're going to add a spacer and add our next button, which is basically called save button. This is going to help us save the record in the data store. We're going to leave the actions part empty. We're going to come back to that and add the Swift database functionalities in here. But let's finish the UI first. All right, and let's move all these UI elements at the top by adding a spacer at the bottom of the v-stack. Okay, so you have like, all the book related data now ready to be saved. And now we actually, when we have our UI ready to go, let's go ahead and add the SwiftData part, which will help us save this entered information. Now, since we are passing this model container via the app, we can access environment object to gain the access to the model context. And we can do that up at top by creating an environment property and reaching out to the path called model context. We're going to store this in a variable called context, and this is the variable that we're going to basically use to access and save our record. Now we also need a way to dismiss this view that will be presented as a sheet, so we're going to use another environment key path basically to dismiss the sheet, and that key path is called dismiss, okay, which calls the dismiss function. So environment reaching out to the key path dismiss and store it inside the variable called dismiss. Okay, now when we have these two environment variables ready, we want to make sure that basically all the information that is related to the book is entered by the user before we enable the button save, so they save the correct value inside the data store and they don't store just empty values or empty records. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a property, a computer property called is valid, and this is going to be a Boolean type, and we're going to simply say is not title dot is empty, title dot is empty, and not author dot is empty, and published year is not equal to nil. That means all the fields have some value. Okay, in that case we want to basically enable. So now when we are basically ready with this property, we're going to go into our cancel button. We're going to call the dismiss function in the cancel button to dismiss the sheet. Okay, and we're going to basically add the save property as well. So we're going to basically go and add a disable modifier to our save button first. So disabled modifier, this is going to be basically based on the computer property, which is valid, and we're gonna basically just toggle that, or like not toggle it, but opposite of, like, is valid true. If not true, then keep it disabled, because just remember this is disabled. Okay, so disable modifier is basically keeping this disabled as long as you have nothing in the field. As soon as you have something in the fields, then this button will become enabled. So let's see if we can actually quickly enter something, and as you can see, our field becomes enabled and it becomes disabled as soon as the information disappears. Okay, now is the part where we want to save the data. So first thing, we want to basically make sure that we have the published year. So guard let published year, else we want to return from here, because we want to make sure that published year is a property that is available, a value that user has entered and is available. We can basically unwrap it, because if you notice, there is basically an optional. Okay, now the other thing is we want to actually create a book instance by creating a book, and book basically takes title, which we can use the title value for, and author, we can pass the author, and the published year. So we can pass all these information and create an instance of book. Okay, now this book instance can directly be saved using the context by inserting it into the context. So we're going to say context.insert book. Now you don't need to call save. I want to actually call save explicitly to make sure that it is called immediately as soon as user hits the save button, so we can actually exit out of this workflow. So we're going to say do try context.save catch, and we want to print if there is any error. Okay, and we also want to dismiss at the end of the section. Okay, so we want to make sure that we dismiss this sheet. All right, now we have everything that we need basically to add a book. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our container, or like the content view, and we're gonna basically create a state property, state private var launch add new, and this is a temporary variable, and we're gonna simply create a button here, button add new book, and then as soon as you actually tap on this, we're gonna just toggle the value of launch add new, and we're gonna show a sheet. Basically the sheet is going to be tied to launch add new, and for the content we're going to show add new book view. Okay, let's go ahead and build and run inside a simulator so we can see basically what is going on. Okay, so we're going to launch the simulator, and our app is still loading, so this is a first time building. It takes a bit moment to actually get everything ready, and then you have your add new book shown here, and we're gonna basically press on it, and we have it like the add new screen is launched. We're gonna enter Harry Potter. Okay, and J.K. Rowling is the author, in 1997 I think, and we're gonna hit save, and as you can see the model is dismissed. We don't know whether the record is saved or not. Well, there is some sort of error, so let's go ahead and check it out. And basically error is nothing that we actually need to worry about. So I'm assuming that we have our record saved successfully. Now we're gonna know about whether we have saved it successfully or not in the next video, when we actually create a functionality where we can read the values from SwiftData and see if we can actually list them out in a list view. Okay, so in the next video we're gonna basically learn how to query SwiftData and fetch all the information from SwiftData and present it on UI. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be fetching data from SwiftData using SwiftData in SwiftUI. Okay, so far we have seen that we were able to add a book to the database using SwiftData. Now let's continue to build upon our app and add the ability to fetch saved books from the saved persistent store. Okay, so we will start by building a view to display a list of books. Okay, so let's go ahead and go under the view, add a new file. We're going to select SwiftUI view, and we are going to name this book list view. Excuse me. And now we have basically our view created. So we're going to start by importing SwiftData. That's the first thing that we're going to do. And the other thing that we're going to do basically is we're going to use something called @query. Now @query is a macro that was basically introduced with SwiftData, and it basically helps query SwiftData. It helps you fetch the list of books that are saved currently in the persistent store. Now this macro is backed by a query struct, which is a property wrapper to fetch the set of models and keep those models in sync with the underlying data, and that does it automatically. Okay, and we can simply create that by adding @query and creating a private variable for books, or whatever your model is. So our model is called book, and that is what we're going to create. And as you can see, that this particular property does not need any initialization because query is going to basically take charge initializing that. Now we can display these fetched lists inside a list view using a for each view. we are going to use the for each so we can actually add the delete functionality in our book list as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and first create a navigation stack. Inside the navigation stack, we're going to create a list which is going to contain a for each view for books. Now, because our model is basically backed by SwiftData, it already conforms to identifiable protocol, and it already has an ID that is recognizable for both the SwiftData and for SwiftUI. So we don't have to worry about defining which ID and stuff. If you look at your model, you're going to realize that we did not have to conform to identifiable protocol or create any ID, because that is done for you already. It's already taken care by SwiftData. Okay, so we're going to simply create get a single book in the closure, and we're going to print the title for the book. So book.title. All right, let's go ahead and run this so we can see this in the simulator. Right, the simulator is running, and hopefully we'll get to see, actually, you know what, we need to call book list view in the content view. So instead of having this, we're gonna just comment this out and call the book list view instead. Let's go ahead and rerun, and we should see Harry Potter right there. All right, one thing that we are missing here is basically the title. So let's go ahead and jump into the definition for this book list view, and we are going to essentially give this a title. So let's give it a title, and the title is reading logs. Okay, let's go ahead and rerun. All right, there we have it. We have our the only book that we've actually created, Harry Potter, saved, and it's already fetched. So you now know how to fetch data from using query from SwiftData. Okay, all right, so let's hop on to the next video, and we're going to continue to work on this example. We're going to update the content view to include basically a little bit more information, also capability to add the new book. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to continue to work in our book list view. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to do is basically go back to our content view, and we have basically commented this add new book out. So let's go ahead and uncomment this, because we do want ability to add a new book, and we are going to simply put these two views inside the VStack so we can see both of them side by side. Okay, let's go ahead and run to make sure that our content view has not only the option to show the list, but also to add a new book. And we're gonna come back and basically improve the UI a little bit, but now you can actually add a book. Let's go ahead and click cancel. You can see that the cancel works fine. Let's go ahead and add a new book. Okay, I'm just putting some random dates, and I'm gonna save this, and as you can see, we have our next book, which is The Hobbit, already fetched and loaded. We didn't have to do anything extra, or to fetch any record on dismiss and stuff like that. All that is taken care for you by SwiftData. Now, our book list currently only shows the name of the book, but there's no other information that is displayed. So let's improve this list by including a cell to display a little bit more information about the book. So we'll create another view, and this one is going to be called book cell view, and we're going to display a little bit more book information that we are saving about the book. Okay, so go ahead and create a new file, and we're going to select a SwiftUI view, and we're going to call this book cell view. And this book cell view is basically going to take a book as a parameter. Okay, And we're gonna I'm gonna remove this because SwiftData, there are like a lot of things that you that doesn't work with the preview with the canvas, so I'm just gonna ignore that part. Okay. All right, so body, the way we're gonna basically build the body for this view is gonna be, we're gonna have a V stack with an alignment in the leading space. We're gonna have text book dot title, and let's set this title as bold. We're gonna set the H stack for text author, and this is where we're gonna display the author of the book, so book dot author. And let's add a spacer with another text view, which is going to display the published on. Okay, so we get published on information as well. All right, and we're gonna set the font for this entire H stack as the subheadline, the foreground style, as secondary, and padding, a little bit padding at the top, about 20 points. Okay, now let's head over to the book list view, and we are going to basically instead of using this text view to display the book detail, we're gonna use book cell view and pass the book that we are getting from the for each view. Okay, so now we should basically have a little bit nicer view to display the details about the book and its author and when it was published. Okay, so it's much better than just looking at the title of the book. Okay, all right, so with that, we have reached the end of this video. Let's continue on and explore SwiftData in future videos. I'll see you guys there. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to delete records in SwiftData. So we now have an app that can persist data using SwiftData, and we can also view all the saved records between app launches. So next we'll be building basically a record deletion functionality so we can learn how to delete a record from the data store. Okay. All right, so let's start by bringing in the model context using environment object. So we can work with the context to delete a record directly from the data store. And we can also save the changes back into the persistent store. Now, when we were inserting the model container in the using model container, basically this container using the model container modifier, right? At that point, we actually also registered for environment to basically relate our book context into the model context. So that all is done by SwiftData for you. The way it helps is basically whenever you need a model context, it already knows which context you're actually working in reference to. Okay, so we go back into our book list view, and we actually can go ahead and fetch the environment for the path model context. Okay, this actually gives us the access to the context. Now we basically first will create a private function to the view which will perform the actual deletion operation. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a private function called delete. This will accept an index set of type index set, and basically we're gonna take this index set and we're gonna for each over this. We'll get individual index for the items in the set, and we're gonna fetch book from our books array, which is basically fetched from the query for the index that is defined here. and then we simply call the context and delete that particular model. Okay, so model context already knows where the data store is, which one it is, so we just have to call the context, call the delete on it, pass the model, and we are done. We can actually call do try catch that way to make sure that we are actually saving our record, and make sure to catch any errors. So we're gonna simply print the error dot localized description to make sure we know what's going on if there is any error. All right, once we have this function ready, this is all the functionality that we need for the delete operation. We are going to use this function and pass it as a parameter for the onDelete modifier in the for each view. So head over to the for each view and basically create your onDelete modifier. Now, notice that onDelete modifier actually performs an operation which actually gives a closure with index set. So all we're going to do is simply call delete here, and the index set will be passed in, and now we are all set, ready to go. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to delete a record directly from the table, and this delete operation is going to be executed when user swipes on the record in the table, in the list. Okay, so let's go ahead and check it out. We are going to add a sample book delete 1999 and save this. Okay, so we're gonna simply swipe on this to delete, and let's go ahead and relaunch the app to make sure that our record is actually deleted and it's no longer there. So as you can see that our delete functionality is working as expected, and it is that easy to add a delete function using SwiftData into your data store backed app. Okay, next we are going to basically work on the updating records in SwiftData. So let's go ahead and hop onto the next video where we're going to see how to update a record in SwiftData. I'll see you guys there. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be learning about updating records using SwiftData. So let's add a functionality for updating record for our reading logs app. And we will start by creating a new SwiftUI view. And this SwiftUI view is going to be called book detail view, which will allow us to see all the details of the selected book along with the functionality to update the book detail if needed. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and right click on the views and add a new SwiftUI view from the template, and we're going to name this book detail view, just like so. Okay, I'm going to once again remove the preview side, so we're going to simply focus on the view. Okay, now first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a book property which will be passed in when the detail view is initialized. Okay, and we also need access to the model context so we can save the changes into the data store along with the ability to dismiss basically the presented view. So we're going to have another environment variable which is going to store the dismiss function. Okay, so two environment properties. All right, so far so good. So we'll basically need a few state properties as well. So let's add them, and we'll basically add state property to handle editing state. This editing state will indicate when the view is in the editing mode or when it's not. Okay, and that's when basically we will show the text fields to update the book information. Otherwise we'll show the text views. Okay, so let's add the state property. All right, and then we're gonna add 3 more state properties for book related information. These values will be populated from the past book object, so we'll also create this views initializer. Let's create an initializer which is going to help us initialize these state properties from the value that has been passed in using book. Okay, so we're going to simply create an initializer. This is going to take a book of type book model, and it's not any, it's init, and we're going to first initialize our book from the past book model, and we're gonna basically reach out to the backing property of each of these title, author, and published years. Okay, so we're gonna say underscore title, which is created for you by the state property wrapper, and we're gonna say underscore state, initialize this by using state.initialize with initial value as book.title. And this is how basically you can initialize your state from a passed in value, the value that can be passed in from somewhere else. You can basically initialize your state object using this approach. Okay, we're going to do this for author. Okay, and published here, and we are done with the initialize with the init function. Okay, now let's add a form in this views body property, and we will show group of text fields when the editing state property, which is this one, is true. Otherwise we'll show book information in text views, and basically it is going to be only read only, so it's kind of like labels. So we'll basically have both read, and when view enters the editing mode, we'll have like text fields where user can update the new information about the book. Okay, we'll also add a toolbar item to control the logic for toggling the states of the views. All right, so let's go ahead and start by creating a form first. And within the form, we're going to check if the is editing state is true. If it is true, we're going to basically create a group which is going to have all the text fields. And these text fields are going to be basically for each of our fields. So book title, we're going to start there, which is going to be bound to the title state property. We're going to have book author, and also published year. Okay, we're going to change the type. Instead of using the text overload for the text field, we're going to use the value overload, because it actually allows us to pass the formatter. Okay, so formatter we're going to say is going to be the number formatter. Okay, and we are also going to set the keyboard type for this guy to be a number pad. All right, for the group, and as you know, group does not have its own representation, so any property that you actually apply to the or any modifier that you apply to the group, it's going to be basically passed on to the child views, and we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to basically set the text field style as rounded border. So that's going to basically create a rounded border text fields within this group for all the text fields. Okay, so this is basically our case when the view is in editing mode. But if view is not in editing mode, that makes our life a little bit more easier by just calling having like text views with all the details. Okay, so we have basically a state for editing and non-editing. Okay, but how are we going to toggle these? Well, we are going to add a toolbar to the form by using toolbar modifier, and this toolbar in this this toolbar is going to have a trailing closure, which is going to have toolbar item, like so. And we're going to define the placement. The placement is going to be where do we want to place this toolbar? Well, this is going to be in the top bar trailing, so we want to add this on the trailing side of the top bar, the navigation bar. And for the content, it's going to simply have a button which is going to change its title based on the is editing state. So if is editing is true, we're gonna just say call it done. Basically the label is done. Otherwise, if the editing is false, we're gonna have the label as edit. Okay, and we're gonna enable or toggle the is editing state, just like that. Okay, now one last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add the title, and this is gonna be book detail. There you go. All right, so now we have basically added the functionality to show the book detail. Before we add this the save functionality to save the updates that user has made, let's go ahead and add this book detail view into our cell view so we can at least see what we have built so far. So let's go ahead and go into our book cell view. Okay, and we're gonna basically surround this VStack with a navigation link. The value for the navigation link is going to be book. Okay, that's been passed in, and the body is going to be basically the VStack that we had earlier. All right, so basically this navigation link needs a destination. Where should it go? So we're gonna say navigation destination is going to be for the book.self. So basically it takes the type and it actually gives us access to that book, and we are simply going to call the detail view passing the book that user has selected. Okay, now let's go ahead and build and run. All right, and basically we can navigate into this, and as you can see, we can see the book detail right now. If we click edit, we can see the edit screens. They actually change into the editable fields. If we click done, it actually restores the state. So because as you can see, the data is being retained because we are storing these values inside these state properties. So any update that you make, they're going to be stored here, but they're not retained. Basically, we are not truly saving it in the backend. Okay. Excuse me. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add the save functionality into our book detail view. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next video where we're going to add the save functionality. I'll see you guys there. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we are going to be basically working on the save functionality. And save functionality is a little bit easy. So we're gonna go back to our book detail view, and right underneath our group, basically where we are creating our text fields, we want to show a save button. Now, why we want to show the save button here? Because we only want to show the save button when we are in editing mode. In the read-only mode, there's no point of showing the save button because there's nothing to save there. So we're going to simply have the button. The title itself is going to be called save. Excuse me. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to guard let the published year. Okay, we need to know, like, whether the published year is being rendered correctly and it's not nil before we proceed. Okay, so we can actually fetch that using published year, and this is not book.published year, it's simply published year. Okay, now next thing we're going to do is we're going to say book.title, and we're going to update the title with the title that is saved or that is entered by the user in the title state property. We're going to do the same thing for all the other properties. So for author, we're going to say book.author is equal to author, book.published year is equal to the published year. Okay, now we have, like, our model updated, the book that is passed in. We're going to basically simply call our context. So try context dot save, and basically we're gonna save our changes that we have done in the model. We want to print any error to make sure that we actually know about them, and we also want to call dismiss as soon as the update is done. So dismiss the view when the update is done. Okay, now with that change, let's go ahead and build and run. And what we should see is basically if we click on a book, enter the editing state, and say part 1, just something to write there. We're going to click save, and as you can see, our view is updated with Harry Potter part 1. Okay, we're going to come back and basically give these appropriate names, but as you can see now, we have the update functionality, we have the delete functionality, and we have the list functionality. All the CRUD statements in create, update, delete, and read, all those are basically completed here. Okay, now there are a couple of issues that we are seeing here. First one that you would see is there's this error in navigation destination for reading logs.book was declared earlier on the stack, and only the destination is declared closest to the root view of the stack will be used. Okay, so that is one thing that we need to handle. Also, if you notice that this add new book is always stays, so we don't want to show that inside the book detail view because there are too many edits going on here, so we want to hide that. So there are a couple of UI related issues that we need to fix. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next video where we will fix all these issues to bring the app in a state where we can actually continue to build upon it. Okay, all right, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're gonna fix a couple of issues that we are seeing in our UI, and let's go ahead and address these. So these error for query metadata sync, these are just warnings. They're coming from core data. They're more related to the development or the debug that we are doing, so we're gonna simply ignore them, but these are actual errors. As you can see, it is actually the background itself is also red. What this error is trying to say is wherever we are creating or calling this navigation destination, so let's go ahead and see where we are calling this. So this is where we're calling navigation destination. It is being called too late in the flow. So essentially what it is saying is that we have this for each, and we should handle basically a destination for the navigation stack rather than handling it for each record, because this is, like, gonna create multiple of those entries, and we don't want that because then the whole point of introducing this way of doing the navigation link was to increase the efficiency of the finding the object, and which is why your navigation destination now takes this type value as the input parameter. Okay, so moving navigation destination outside the list, outside the for each, will actually help us resolve this issue. So let's go ahead and rerun and see, like, if this issue is gone. Essentially what we did is we actually took the navigation destination out of navigation stack. Okay, so that is basically what we have done here. Now let's go ahead and once again rerun and see, like, we are not seeing any issues. Okay, so we are good. The next issue that we're actually gonna address is showing this add new button. So whenever we launch the detail view, we have this add new still showing up, and it can be launched essentially because we are in the context of the same navigation stack. Now we can basically fix this by moving this this add new into the toolbar. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this add new functionality in the content view and this button right here and move it inside the toolbar for the list view. Okay, so we don't want this here, but we want this inside the list view. So we will go in the list view. Okay, and we'll create a state variable here. Present add new as false. Okay, and then right underneath this navigation destination, we are going to say add a toolbar. Okay, so just add a toolbar first, and then toolbar item with placement and content. The placement is going to be top bar trailing, and the content is basically going to be add new book. And we're going to change the UI a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and change this. So button, we will basically change it this way. Label like that. Okay, and this is not the launch add new, but present add new. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are binding to the correct one. And for the label, we're going to simply show an image with system name called plus.circle.fill. Okay, let's also set the button style as border prominent, and still gonna call the add new book view. Okay, now we're gonna basically do some cleanup. So we go back to the content view, and we're gonna remove this, and this is the only view that is called here, so I'm gonna remove the vstack as well and simply put the book list view. Okay, let's go ahead and rerun, and what we should see is basically a plus button here. As soon as we tap on it, the plus button goes away. We have the edit state for the edit. We go back, let's click on the plus button. We can add a new book. So let's add new book, delete 1999, save this, and we have the new book. Let's go ahead and delete this, and there we have it. We have all the functionality working as expected. All right, with that, we've fixed all the issues that we are seeing so far. So let's continue our journey forward for SwiftUI and SwiftData development, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be learning about entity relationships in SwiftData. So our reading log maintains the record of books that we have read so far. But if we want to remember things that we liked about the book, that is important quotes, then we can basically have this we can solve this by adding a notes taking capability at the book level. So each book will have a place to add notes about the book. Okay, now in this case, we are connecting two entities. There is a book entity and there is a note entity, and we are connecting them together with a common link. Now this link that we are connecting these two entities to, or with, is called a relationship between entities. There are quite a few types of entity relationships. So let's go ahead and take a look at each one of them with an example, and then we'll actually go back and build this entity relationship for our project. Okay, so the first one is one-to-one relationship. Now in this one-to-one relationship, each entity instance on one side basically represents or is related to exactly one entity instance on the other side. Okay, and that relationship holds vice versa. So basically, in this example, we have a student entity with one-to-one relationship to a student ID entity. Now, this is where each student can have only one single student identity and student ID, which is student identity, and each student ID can have exactly one student. So no two students can hold the same student ID, or no two student IDs can be assigned to, or a single student ID can be assigned to two different students. Okay, so the relationship that they maintain is very exclusive, one-to-one. Okay, so this is basically our one-to-one relationship. Now, next comes one-to-many relationship, also known as one-to-n relationship. Now, in one-to-many relationship, each entity instance on one side of the relationship can be associated with multiple entity instances on the other side, but each entity instance on the other side is associated with only one entity instance from the first side. So let's understand with an example. So let's say we have a car maker entity and a car model entity. Now each car maker can make n number of car models. They can have many car models, but a particular car model can belong to a particular car maker. So in this case, car maker to car model is going to be 1-to-n relationship. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at another variation of relationship, and this one is called many-to-one. The many-to-one is basically an inverse of one-to-many relationship. Now in this case, each entity instance on one side is associated with one entity instance on the other side, but the other side instance is associated with multiple entity instances on the first side. So we can take an example of department and an employee. Okay, now basically each employee or an employee can belong to basically a department, right? So employee to department relationship is 1. Okay, but a department can have any number of employees. So you read it, department can have n number of employees, and n number of employees can belong to a particular department. So a single department can have many employees, and basically a department can have many employees the other way. All right, so let's take a look at the last one, which is many-to-many relationship. Now in many-to-many relationship, basically the multiple entity instances on one side are associated with multiple entity instances on the other side. Now we're going to take an example of a student and a course. So a student can register to many courses, and a course can have many students. All right, so basically the relationship that connects them is many-to-many, or otherwise known as n-to-n. Okay, all right, in our case, basically the relationship is one-to-many, where one book will contain many notes. All right, so with the theory aside, we are ready to code some example and basically build that entity relationship between the book and the note. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next video, where we're going to create our notes entity. I'll see you guys there. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and we'll start by creating a new model for the book note, and this class will be called note. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over to the models section, and we are going to basically create a new file. Let's go ahead and choose a Swift file template, click next, and name this file note. All right, we're going to make sure that we import, we already have foundation imported. We're going to import SwiftData so we can use our @model macro. Now we're going to create a final class because we are not planning to inherit this class or basically create a subclass out of this class. So we're going to simply make it final class, and we're going to have a title, message, and a book. Okay, book basically works or acts as a connection between the note and the book itself. Now, in order to make the connection, we'll actually have to make our book aware that there is an entity called notes as well. So we'll actually go ahead and add that relationship, but let's go ahead and fix this issue first. So as you can see, the model requires an initializer which is not there for our note entity. So let's go ahead and add an initializer, and let's take help from Xcode to create that. So we have title, message, and book, and all of these are initialized. So now our error is gone, and basically, once again, in order to make the connection between the book and the note, we'll basically have to make book aware that there is an entity called note that exists. So let's head over to the book model, and in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create @relationship. Okay, and @relationship gives us many options. Like, there are several options while you're creating basically the relationship between two entities. The one that we are interested in is delete rule. Okay, and inverse. Okay, so let's go ahead and type those two, and we can remove the schema options, and for the delete rule we can simply say it's cascade, and the inverse is okay. So what does this mean is basically we are creating a relationship. We are saying whenever this book entity is deleted, delete its note entity as well. Inverse is basically making that connection, calling which property should this book be related to inside the note. And if you remember, we actually created an entity for book inside the note, so we can actually reference it, and that's what we are doing here. So we are actually providing that inverse connection with the notes book. Okay, the book under which this note belongs to. Okay, now all we gotta do is create our variable notes, and we are simply gonna initialize this. So note is going to be basically an array of notes is going to be an array of note, because a book is going to contain multiple notes, and we are done with the relationship. Now this, once again, these delete rules for this relationship is indicated as cascade, which indicates that upon deleting this book, any related models will be deleted as well. Now there are some other delete rules as well. There is a no action. All right, and no action is basically a rule that doesn't make any change to the related model. Essentially, when you delete the book, the note is going to be there. It's not going to be deleted. All right, in our case, it's not good because we have one-to-many relationships. So book actually is the owner. So if we delete the book and leave the note, that means note is always hanging there without any reference to any books. Okay, so we don't want to create that situation. That's why we created as a cascade. But there's another option, like nullify, which is another delete rule. Now this is not an option for us, but I'm actually going through all the delete rules. So nullify basically means that whenever the main entity, which is our book entity, is deleted, its related model reference is nullified. Basically, it is defined or created as nil. Okay, so that's what nullify means. We can actually go with that and let the garbage collector do its job and collect this hanging note inside the memory and claim the memory back. But we don't want to do that because, like, again, that's an edit process. Your garbage collection is only done basically on iOS. There's no official garbage collection, but there is a reference counting, which actually essentially checks if the object has a reference or not, which is pretty proactive. Still, you are leaving some of the data in the memory, which is of no use. So again, this makes sense kind of, but it doesn't make for a sense too much for our use case. All right, now the other one is deny. Deny is basically a rule that prevents the deletion of the model because it contains one or more references to other models. So basically, essentially what we're gonna tell our users that, hey, you have notes associated with this book, so you cannot delete the book until you delete all the notes from the notes entity. So basically, you're making sure that all the notes are deleted before our user can delete book. All right, so this is another option that we can choose. And the last one, which we actually picked, is cascade. Basically, it deletes any related models automatically as soon as the parent model is deleted. Now, the inverse option is basically a connection between the book model and the note. Okay, so note and book knows about each other through this inverse and the property that actually contains the book reference inside the note entity. All right, now after we've prepared our model and established a relationship between them, we can begin developing our views. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with one view, and we are going to actually continue in the next video. So the first view we're going to create is going to be an add new note. So I'm going to select a Swift template. I'm going to name this add new note. We're going to import from SwiftUI and import SwiftData. Both of these libraries imported. We're going to create our struct. And for the body, we're going to simply have a text right now. Okay, now this view, basically the view that we have created, let's go ahead and start adding some references. So first thing we're going to do, basically I wanted to first finish our view so our compiler doesn't complain that, hey, body property is not there or body does not have any definition. So now once we have all the basic view created and all the warnings or compiler errors fixed, we're going to start by first creating some variables. Okay, so first one is basically a variable that is going to hold a reference to a book. So whenever this add new book is created, we're going to basically expect a book to be passed in. Okay, sorry, whenever this note and note view is created, we're going to expect a book to be passed in. The book is going to basically be the one that this note is going to go and attach itself to. Okay, so we're going to create a book variable. Okay, after the book, we're going to create two state properties. These two state properties are basically going to hold the title and the message. Basically, title for the note and the message that we want to store about the book. Okay, so and we're going to initialize both of them with empty string. So you have a title and the next one is message. Both are string type and initialized with an empty string. Okay, now we'll use an environment objects model context path to save the note into the data store using SwiftData. And we're also going to use the dismiss functionality from the environment object as well to close the current view. So let's go ahead and create two environment objects. the key path that we are interested in for the first one is the model context. And the other one is dismiss. Okay, now let's go ahead and basically recreate the view's body. So we're going to remove everything that we have currently in there, and now we're going to start with a form. This form is going to contain two text fields, one for note title, and this title is going to be bound to the title state object or state variable. Second one is the actual note that we want to store, and this one is basically bound to this state message property. Okay, now we'll basically add a save and close buttons as a toolbar item for this view. Let's give a navigation title, so add new note is the title for the navigation, and let's add a toolbar as well, toolbar. And for the content in the toolbar, we're going to create toolbar items. So first one is going to be placed at top bar leading. Okay, and basically this is going to be a button. We're going to call close, and we're going to simply call the dismiss function inside. This dismiss function is basically the environment key path dismiss. Next one is basically another toolbar item, top bar trailing. Okay, and we're gonna call this button save. Okay, and inside this button, first we're gonna create our note. So let note is equal to a note with title and message. Now title and message basically are two properties that we have created where user is entering its like their data, their notes, and we are actually creating a note out of that those two properties. Now we're gonna also make sure that the book from the note is basically associated to the book that has been passed in as the reference here. So we have like basically a book stored as well, and then we are going to basically simply insert this whole note object into the context, and this is now going to be saved. Let's go ahead and call the context.save, and we also want to make sure that our book is aware of the notes. So let's go to the book.notes and append the note that we have just saved. Okay, now what we're going to do is basically we're going to create a catch block as well, because that is missing, and which is the error here, and we're going to simply print the error dot localized description. Okay, we also want to make sure that after we have completed our save functionality and we are done saving our record, we simply call dismiss to dismiss the current view. So dismiss, so basically we can actually dismiss the current view when a user has successfully saved the record. All right, so now we have our add new note view ready to go, and next we are basically going to add a view that will basically display all the saved notes. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be creating our note list view. So let's go ahead and create a new file, and we're going to once again choose a Swift template, notes list view, and we are simply going to create this. Let's import SwiftUI and SwiftData. You're gonna create a struct notes list view conforming to the view protocol. All right, so you're gonna leave the compiler error for now, and let's go ahead and head over and create some of the variables. So we only need one thing here, basically a book object. Now this book object will be passed in as the input parameter for this view, and we'll basically use that and in the combination of list and a for each view to render all the notes that are associated with this book. Okay, so this create a variable for book which will be passed in upon the initialization, and we are going to basically have a list view which is going to have a for each for book.notes, and we're going to get reference to each note in this for each view, and we're going to simply take a text view and display the note.title here. Okay, let's make the title bold, and also let's make sure that we have a message also added to the view as well. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add this note list view as a section in the book detail view. So so we can basically begin adding that. So basically we're gonna just create a state property first, which is gonna toggle the add new note sheet. So let's go ahead and go at the top and create at state private var show add new note. Basically this is going to launch the modal that's actually going to help user create a new note, and the note will be added, and then we can actually display it within a section. Okay, all right, so let's go scroll down. We're gonna actually collapse this is editing. Okay, and we have basically this if statement, and underneath this we have this else section. So let's collapse the if and else as well. Okay, and right underneath this we're going to create a section, and this section is going to be called notes. Let's go ahead and put it inside the quote. It's a string, and this is basically a section where we're going to display the notes. Okay, alright, so next thing what we're going to do inside the notes is the first row is basically going to be a button which is going to allow user to add a note. So let's go ahead and create a button, and this button is basically going to toggle the show add note. Okay, so basically this is going to help launch a sheet. So let's go ahead and create a sheet as well, and sheet is going to be bound to the show add new variable, okay, that we have created right here. And for the content, what we're going to show is a navigation stack. And inside the navigation stack, we're going to show add new note, passing in the book that we are actually currently looking at. Okay, and then what we're going to do is basically since a new note view has only 2 fields, it would make sense to basically have it cover only some portion of the screen and not launch a full sheet. So we can actually do that by using a presentation detent, and presentation detent will help us adjust the height of the sheet itself. So we're going to show a small sheet, and we'll also basically disable the swipe to dismiss for the sheet, so user does not swipe down and dismiss the sheet. That way we actually let user follow their regular flow. If they want to cancel the modal, they have to click the cancel or close button. Okay, so we're gonna do that by simply adding presentation detent first. that'll make our view look basically limit the view to a fraction of the screen size, which is about 30%. And let me actually run this so I can show you what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and build and run. All right, so our project is running now, and if I select a view, we can see this add new note, and if I click on add new note, as you can see, it's only this small sheet that is actually shown up. Now the other variation, which is basically without a detent, is essentially the entire screen, or most of the screen, is basically covered by the view itself, which in our case does not make sense because we only have two fields. So 30% of the view actually is perfect. So let's go ahead and uncomment that and create it so I can show you the other flow that we are actually gonna the other functionality that we're gonna add. So right now, if I click anywhere, I can dismiss this modal, okay, or we can actually swipe down and dismiss. Okay, we don't want our user to go through that flow because this may leave our form in an inconsistent state where user is entering the information but suddenly they actually tapped somewhere and the modal disappears. We want to avoid that situation, and we can avoid that by stating that interactive dismiss is disabled. Okay, and as soon as we do that, we actually gain the functionality where our user is no longer going to be able to dismiss the modal just by tapping somewhere or by swiping down. Okay, now they'd have to close properly so actually they can see the view, and this is the correct flow because this actually prevents from user to accidentally close in the middle of typing something. Okay, all right, now we are ready to display all the notes related to this view. Now, while displaying the notes, it would make sense to show an empty state so user knows that currently there are no notes if there are none, and basically then we encourage them to add new notes as well. All right, so we're going to use the new content unavailable view for this purpose. All right, so what we're going to do is right underneath this sheet. Okay, basically we still inside our section. Okay, and right underneath the sheet we're gonna say if book dot notes is empty. Okay, this is where we want to show content unavailable view, and content unavailable view takes basically a title and a system image, which is SF symbol. So we're gonna say no notes. Okay, just simply that, and we are going to add a note system image. All right, now if this is not the situation, basically we have some notes, we want to basically display the list of notes view. Okay, so we're gonna simply have the book passed into the notes list view and list out all the notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and we are basically first going to see our content unavailable view. So let's go into the Harry Potter part 1, and as you can see we have no notes, and we can add a new note. Let's add basically, let's see, close Hobbit. I know a fact about Hobbit, so let's go ahead and add that. So Hobbit So it was published in 1937 and only 1500 copies were printed, and they were sold out in few months. All right, and we're gonna simply save this, and as you can see now we have a note associated with this particular book. Okay, so if we go ahead and relaunch, we want to make sure that our view actually has retained, or our app has retained that data, and you can see that our notes is now retained and it is associated to this view. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a note to Harry Potter. some random note, and we're gonna delete this afterwards. I just want to show you that Harry Potter has its own note and Hobbit has its own note, so they're not being displayed like as a universal notes list. It's like each note is associated with a book itself. And now with that, we have basically ability to add notes to books. But what if we entered a note by mistake and basically we don't have a way to delete them? Well, in those cases, we want to make sure that we actually add a delete functionality. So let's head back into the notes list view. Okay, and we're basically gonna first create an environment variable, and this environment variable is going to give us access to the model context. Okay, all right, once we have the model context, what we're going to do is we're going to first create a function. Let's create a private function, delete note from the index set, and index set is going to be passed to us. All right, and we're going to basically go over the each value in the index set using for each, and we get the index for each entry, and we're gonna simply get the note. So book dot notes at the index. Okay, we're gonna call the context and we're gonna delete that particular note. We also want to make sure that we delete that note from the book itself as well. So let's remove the note at the index, and let's go ahead and save this. So try context.save, catch localized description. Okay, now we will basically use this on delete, this delete note inside the for each on delete modifier. So we're going to simply go to the for each, and we're going to say on delete perform delete note. Okay, and delete note is automatically be passed in the index set using the on delete modifier, and now we have ability to delete a note. Okay, so let's go ahead and go inside the view and let's try it out. So you're gonna go inside the Harry Potter view and we're gonna delete this random note. And one thing that you notice that our view actually looks a little bit odd because it's showing these two values as two different entries, and that is because we have this, we don't have this inside a VStack. So let's go ahead and add it inside a VStack. Okay, let's go ahead and rerun. And there we go. We have basically our Hobbit and everything showing up. Let's go ahead and fix this with the alignment as well. Just last few touches and build and run. There we go. That looks perfect. So now we have our for each and our Hobbit title, and the note itself is looking fine, and we can actually delete the whole thing. Okay, all right, we're not gonna delete this one, but we have already deleted the Harry Potter one, as you can see this one right here. Okay, all right, with that we have reached the end of this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to be talking about another kind of entity relationship, and let's go ahead and start with an example. So we're going to be adding a genre. Books are basically categorized into literary genres, and therefore it would be logical for our book log to include a genre classification to help us keep track of the number of fictional and non-fictional books we have read. Given that a genre can have many books, And conversely, a book can be associated with multiple literary genres. This scenario offers an excellent opportunity to test how SwiftData manages a many-to-many relationship, which is end-to-end relationship, in other words. We'll start by adding a new model to our project, and this model is going to be called genre. Right-click on the model folder, and we're going to add a Swift template, or we're going to select a Swift template, and the file name that we're going to choose is going to be called genre. We'll add that. We will import SwiftData, and we'll start with the declaration of @model macro. We'll create a final class, and this class is going to have a genre with a property called name. Okay, now we also want to know what books we have in the genre, and we can do that by creating another property which is going to hold a reference to a book. Okay, and we're going to initialize this basically with an empty array. Okay, let's go ahead and create an initializer. The initializer we need is basically the one that takes just the name, and we have, like, all the conditions satisfied, so compiler errors are gone. All right, and this is basically our genre model. Now let's update the book model, and we're going to include a relationship which is going to define the connection between the genre and the book model as well. The relationship between book and genre will employ a nullify delete rule, essentially nullifying the related model's reference to the deleted model. By defining this delete rule, we ensure that when the book is deleted, the genre category should not be deleted, because if one book is deleted, not entire genre is gone, because there could be other books within that genre. So this is a perfect case to use a nullify delete rule. Okay, so let's head back into the book model. Okay, and we're gonna find basically ourselves right under the first relationship that we created with the notes, and we're gonna create another relationship with delete rule and inverse. Okay, we don't need the options, so we can just remove the options, and we're gonna select a delete rule of nullify, and the inverse is going to be the key path genre dot books. Actually, it should be books, so let's go ahead and fix that. Books, there we go, because there are more than one books. Okay, so there we have it, and our relationship is created. Now we're going to create our variable which is going to hold this relationship, and that is going to be the genre. Okay, and we have our book ready to use the genre, and now book actually knows what genre is, and there is a relationship connection that is established between them. Okay, now let's add a view that is going to show all the genres, and we will basically use the query macro to fetch the records that are stored inside the SwiftData for the genre model. Okay, so we're gonna go into the views and create a new file. We're gonna select a SwiftUI view, and let's name this genre list view. I'm going to remove the preview because previews are a little bit hard to work with SwiftData, and there's some additional added things that you have to do, and we don't want to cover, like, distract ourselves from that. So we're just going to remove that, and first thing I'm going to do is going to create a query macro. Query macro lets us define if there is any sorting rule, or basically our records should be sorted based on a certain criteria, and we're going to say our records should be sorted by genre.name. And we're going to create a private variable called genres matching the genre array. Okay, now for the body, we're going to first create a navigation stack. Inside the navigation stack, we're going to have a list which is going to host a for each view for genres. We'll get each genre and we'll simply put that in a text view. For the navigation title, we're going to simply say it is a literary genre. And we are interested in genre.name. Okay. All right. So basically now we have our genre list view ready to go. Next, we'll add this view to the content view in our app, and we'll basically make sure that it displays both books and genre inside a tab view. Okay. So let's head over to the content view, and at this point in the content view we only have book list view available. So we're going to update this and we're going to say we need a tab view. This tab view is going to have book list view with tab item as basically the image, system name, and then the system symbol, the SF symbol that we're going to use is books.vertical.fill, and the text that we want to actually show is books. All right, the other item that we're going to have inside the tab view is the genre list view, and it's also going to have tab item. And for the icon, we're going to have image, system name, gear.circle, and the text will be genre. Okay, now with those changes, let's go ahead and build and run to see if our genre tab is showing up. So we should have two tabs now, basically a book and a genre tab, and both should display. So genre should not have anything at the moment because we have not added any genre. So we can see the two tabs, and basically we can switch between them, but we don't have the genre or ability to add new genre yet. So that's why none of the genres are basically displayed, because we are not storing any. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next video, where we are going to create a view to create new genre categories, and basically we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, and in this video we will add a view to create new genre categories. Okay, now this view will be presented as a bottom sheet, and it will have a single text field view to display the field, and so we can add a new genre. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, and we are going to create a brand new view. So we're going to right click on the views folder, create a new file, and we are going to choose SwiftUI view. And let's go ahead and name this add new genre. We're going to import SwiftData. Once again, I will remove the preview section, and then we're going to start creating some properties. So first property we need is basically a property that will store the entered name of the genre. Next, we need two environment properties, one to access model context, another to dismiss the view. So we're going to create environment with the key path model context. the other one is going to be for dismiss functionality. And for the body, we're going to basically create a navigation stack first. Inside that, we're going to create a vStack and a text field. Text field will display add new genre as placeholder, and we will bind this with the name state property that we've created. Okay, let's go ahead and style this by setting the text field style, and we're gonna say it's gonna be a rounded border. Let's also set a navigation title, which we should set right here, and we're gonna call this add new genre. Let's add some padding in the horizontal space for the text field, so we have a little bit of a breathing room around the text field. We're also going to create an H stack. This H stack is going to have a button to save our record, and saving is just like what we've been doing so far. So create a genre object, pass the name, and then insert it inside the context. So insert genre. Let's also make sure that we actually save the context. We don't have to call this is automatically called, but I want to be sure that the context is immediately saved, so you can call this on your own as well. There's no issue in there. We want to make sure that as soon as the record is saved, we actually also dismiss the current view. Let's also go ahead and set the button style, and we're going to set the button style as border prominent. There's going to be another button which is going to allow user to cancel the add operation, and we're going to simply call dismiss function inside this. Let's give this a button style of bordered. All right, one thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and put a spacer at the end of the vStack, so all the views are pushed up. Okay, all right, so basically our add new genre view is now ready. Now let's add a launch point for add new genre view, and we will basically launch this view from genre list view. So let's add a new toolbar item in that. Okay, so we're gonna head over to genre list view, and first thing we're gonna do is create a state variable which is gonna toggle to present the add new genre view. Okay, we're gonna initially set it to false. We don't want to show immediately the add new genre view as soon as the genre list view is loaded. So we're gonna set this into false, and right underneath the navigation title, we're gonna add a toolbar, and this toolbar is gonna have a toolbar item. Let's define the placement as top bar trailing, and for the content, we're gonna have a button. We're gonna toggle present add new, and we're gonna add a label with SF symbol plus dot circle dot fill. Okay, let's set the button style as border prominent. Okay, and we're gonna also attach a sheet to this. All right, and this sheet is going to be bound to present add new, and for the content we're gonna have add new genre. Let's also set presentation intent and make sure that this particular view is only displayed with a fraction of 0.3 size. So basically just 30% of the total screen size is how big this sheet is going to be, and we're gonna dismiss the interactive dismiss. So interactive dismiss is going to be disabled, so we can make sure that user actually cancels out rather than swiping down to dismiss the view. Okay, build and run, and we're going to check out if we can basically add a new genre. All right, so we have genre and we have our add button right here. So let's go ahead and click on that. There we have the sheet, and basically we're going to add a new genre. So let's add a genre called fiction. Okay, we are going to save this, and as you can see, the fiction genre is now showing up. Let's go ahead and relaunch this to make sure that it is actually being saved inside the SwiftData. And there we have it. We have, like, this basically loaded from SwiftData now. Okay, so you can now create and add genre. Now we don't have the delete functionality inside this genre view. So let's say if we add something by mistake, we don't have a way, or our user doesn't have a way to basically remove this entry. So let's complete the genre list view by adding a delete functionality to the view. We'll need basically the access to the model context in genre list view, which we don't have at this point. So we can't perform the delete operation into the SwiftData. So let's go ahead and bring in the environment variable. For the key path called model context, and we're gonna say private var get the context, and basically now we have the access to the context. And here, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create a function outside the body property. So create a private function called delete genre. We're gonna create where basically this function is gonna take index set as the parameter, and we are basically going to loop over into the index set and delete genres by accessing genres from the genres list and basically deleting it using the context object. Okay. All right, now when we have this functionality ready, let's go ahead and attach this to the onDelete modifier inside the for each view. So go back into the body property and find the for each, and we're gonna basically create the modifier or add the modifier onDelete, and here we're gonna call our delete genre. Okay, so all we gotta do is basically call this function, and this function is basically gonna enable the delete functionality. So let's go ahead and relaunch the app, and now we go into the genre, and let's go ahead and try delete. And as you can see, we have the delete button now appear, and we can basically delete this entry. So simply delete it. Let's go ahead and relaunch to make sure that it is actually deleted from the context itself. Then we have it. We have, like, our delete functionality completed, and with that we are ready to move on to the next video. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we are basically going to connect the book and genre itself. So now when we have functional views for both books and genres, it's time to connect them together. We will basically begin by creating a new view to render genre selection controls. This will allow us to include new genre selection view as a subview within add new book view. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that view first. So we're gonna right click on the views and basically going to choose a SwiftUI view type, and then we're gonna name this genre selection view. Let's import SwiftData. Okay, and we will basically use a query macro to fetch all the records from genre. We'll also make sure that our genre, when it is fetched, it's sorted by the genre name. Okay, now we'll need a variable to hold all the selected genre values. Since a book can belong to many genres at the same time, we'll create a selected genre type, which is going to be a type of set of genre type. Okay, so there are a lot of types here, so we'll see what that means. Essentially, we are creating the variable selected genre as a set of type genre. Okay, we will attribute this variable with binding property, so we can actually create a two-way connection between the property that stores the data and the view that actually uses that. All right, so we can basically just start by adding a add bindable or add binding, and we're going to create the variable selected genres. Okay, and once again, this is going to be of type set, and set is a generic, so we basically need to define what kind of set it is. It's a genre type set. Okay, now we will display genres inside a list view, and we'll display a checkbox next to the genre name to show the selection. Okay, and we'll update, we'll also add a on tap gesture to select and deselect the genre. All right, so you can see what they're selecting and what they are deselecting. All right, so inside the body, we are going to create a list, and this list is going to have a section. All right, and inside the section, we're going to have for each view, which is going to iterate over all the genres that have been fetched. And for each genre, we're going to create an H stack. And inside the H stack, we're going to basically have a view for text and an image to show the selected and deselected state. All right, so what we are doing here is we are looking into our selected genre, which is basically a variable that stores the user selection. So we are looking at selected genre and seeing if it contains the genre that we are currently iterating over. If it does contain that, that means user has selected that item. So we're going to show a check mark with a circle for that image. If it is not selected, we're going to basically show a deselected state by showing circle dot dashed, so a dashed circle essentially as an image. Okay, and you will see what it looks like in a minute. We're going to also make sure that this has a content shape, so the entire view is tappable. All right, and we're gonna attach on tap gesture to this to make the whole view tappable, so user can basically select the genre and deselect the genre. So if we're gonna basically set a property, if not selected genres dot contain a genre, if it does not contain that, then insert that. But if it contains the genre that was selected, that means the user is intending to remove it by basically deselecting it. So we're gonna simply remove that genre. Okay, now let's also make sure that the list is basically printed, or list is rendered as a plain list. So you're gonna set the list style as plain. Okay, now we are ready to add this view to the add new book view. We'll start by adding a state property first to provide the binding for selected genre. So head over to add new book view. Okay, and up at the top, we're going to create a new property. Selected genres. Is going to be a set type and initialized with an empty set. Okay, because initially when the user has launched, they have not selected any genre for that particular view. Next, we will add the genre selection view right above the cancel and save buttons on the view. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the buttons. So we're going to actually go. So right here is the button that we have. These are the save and cancel. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to basically put our genre selection view, and we're gonna basically pass the selected genres binding as well into that. All right, now let's go ahead and build and run to see if our view actually renders the genre selection view. Okay, so we're going to click on add new book, and as you can see, we have one genre and it is showing up, and you can select and deselect that genre. Okay, let's go ahead and add another genre, or like, a couple more. So I'm gonna add novel and a science fiction. All right, so we have three literary genres now. If you go back in the book section and add a new book, we should see three options now, and we can select all three, or one of them, or none of them. Okay, now we have basically our view ready to go, but we don't have the save functionality yet. We don't have a way to save our genre. So let's go ahead and hop on to the next video where we'll create the save functionality for genres, so genres are associated with a book. Okay, so I'll see you guys there. Thank you.